Welcome to the show. I'm Dom Dumas, and I'm in Bangkok. I'm also the official podcaster of the SHL. Johnny Oduya of the Chicago Blackhawks, episode 52. Welcome to the show, Johnny.
Thank you.
First off, for me, just meeting a professional hockey player since the early 80s, like I said in the other interview, this is quite amazing for me. So I appreciate the honor of you sitting down with me and do this. So, first question, when did you start playing hockey?
I started playing hockey in Sweden, obviously. It was probably organized hockey, I would say. I started at 7 years old in Hammarby's youth program or kids program. Before that, I pretty much started skating around the rinks. My older brother Frederick played, so it kind of became natural for me. I think I was 2 weeks old when I first attended one of these games. So it was something that was always around. As a kid, even though you're not on the ice all the time, you're playing around with hockey sticks and you're in locker rooms and stuff like that. So early start, but organized, I would say, at 7. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting because I also grew up around hockey. My father was a hockey player, and I was always around the rink. I started playing organized hockey when I was 4 or 5 years old. So, yeah. Speaking of youth hockey, what's youth hockey like in Sweden? I mean, the reason I ask is because in Minnesota, youth hockey is quite organized from a very young age. But when I've lived in other parts of the United States, either there is absolutely no youth hockey, or the youth hockey doesn't start till later, or it's not quite as organized. I mean, what's it like in Sweden?
Well, I think it changed, obviously, maybe a lot since I was young. I think we had obviously some organization. I think it becomes more elite focused maybe now than it has been in the past. More organized, more competitive at younger ages, more practicing. I think all of those aspects are evolving more and more as we speak, pretty much all the time. I think you see it throughout the game everywhere. People are getting more serious about hockey compared to maybe in the 80s when you would smoke and drink in the back of the bus, and that's
in some locker
in the
rooms.
90s maybe even. Yeah, so I think that's changed a lot everywhere around the game, I would say. So obviously I felt that what we had was kind of a good mix. There was some competitiveness to it, but also you had a chance to at times go out and play with your friends, skating on different ice surfaces and just enjoying the game. Whereas now I think a lot of that is scheduled practicing, which is probably not a bad thing for if you want to produce results, but you might lose a lot of kids too that would be able to enjoy the game. So it's it's a good and bad, I guess, with it. So the idea is to try to kind of maybe have some balance left of that. Yeah.
Again, growing up in Minnesota, I think we did have that. I remember we had lots of games. We also had lots of practices. I was very fortunate for a lot of the years that I played hockey. I had my father as a coach, so very hockey-minded gentleman. So, but yeah, I think talking to my nephew, who's really come a long way as a hockey player. He's looking at playing juniors next year. I think it's changed a lot, even since. I mean, so who were some people that you looked up to, for hockey-wise, hockey players, coaches, people outside of hockey that that help inspire you?
I guess you can. That's a pretty long list, I would say at times. But I mean, obviously, first contact with hockey was, like I said, through my older brother, and I think a lot of the things I implemented, mentality and work-wise and how you approach the game. It's probably from him.
Okay.
Other than that, obviously, I had my mom that always drove me around, being very supportive. Not one of those moms that maybe stick her nose in the game and discuss everything and analyze, but always there. And then, of course, when the support is needed, I felt it was there. So I think that's the closest to people. And then had some coaches, obviously growing up in Sweden, that I think affected me. I think really pretty much everyone. There's 5 or 6 different guys, ranging from age 12 or even younger up to pretty much juniors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think you get affected in different ways by different people, and of course, as you get older, you start to look outside of maybe your closest environment a little bit more, and trying to find role models, different players. I looked a lot at my brother. Had Ray Bourque growing up as a big role model. So I think I've also looked at a little bit of his game. In Sweden, it's tough to get away from Nicholas Lidström, which I had the honor to play with too in the Olympics in Vancouver, which was pretty cool, of course. But I think in general, when you're younger, I watched a lot of hockey, of course, like anybody else, and you try to learn and pick up things and figure things out. So I would say immediate family, and then some of the coaches. I had Bosse Berglund, that was a ex-NHL player. I was the same age as his son, at a very young age, so I had him as a coach. I had one guy called Micke Gustafsson. That was my brother had him too, and he came up as a youngling, and then there's a bunch of coaches when I was in Hammarby, which affected me a lot, playing junior hockey. Karim Hajiri was his name at that time. It's changed his name now, but him, you had Petri Aho. I have obviously Thomas Storm, that was doing some work with Detroit later on. Christer Falk, and maybe the biggest one for me was Daniel Broberg, who is still working with some skill stuff today in the summertime. So there's a lot of youth coaches on the way, and I think every NHL player probably would say the same thing. There's a lot of guys on the way that kind of help you in different ways and try to push you and try to make you better. So
Awesome. The National Hockey League is obviously very big in like North Central United States, like Minnesota and stuff, and Canada, obviously. What's it like? Is it big in Sweden, or has it always been big? Or
I would say. Technically, I think horseback riding has the most members. I think is the biggest sport. Well, I believe it is. And obviously soccer, I would say, is the biggest sport, the most attended.
My British friends are going to be upset with that.
I would say it is. And then hockey is it's very, very close behind us as number 2, and it's a lot of interest, but it's not like people will recognize you when you walk around the street. Right. So it's a good combination in a way. It's a very Swedish combination where a lot of people watch the games, like Olympics or World Championships, and usually people watch it a lot. So NHL maybe not so much. Also due to whatever times you're playing. Sometimes on the weekends it's easier to catch some games. But otherwise, you got to get up in the middle of the night and watch it. Not too many people do that. Yeah. Well, here it's a little bit better because you can watch them in the morning.
Well, I work in the morning.
Okay, but then then you have a problem. Yeah. But
so
that's obviously it's easier to follow kind of your native league or the league in your country. So a lot of people tend to do that, and I think attendance are pretty good both for the highest league, elite league, or I think it's called SHL too. Same as here,
I think yours was SHL first.
Yeah. And then the second division, obviously. But I think, hockey is growing. It's pretty solid maybe a little bit less in the bigger cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg, but out in the smaller cities, there's still, I think, a lot of interest, and people are pretty supportive of their teams,
Okay, interesting. Now, this is like one of the things that I encountered when I was playing hockey. Was there ever at one point in your hockey life that you went, I'm done, I can't play anymore? Did you ever have that? And how did you get through it?
Oh, yeah, I think you have it. There's a point every year when you think about that, I think. And especially certain times in your career. I mean, specifically, I don't know if I want to name specific times, but I can say that it happens more often than I think people realize, and it's just one of those things. I mean, evolution and becoming better, working and getting better is always a process, and usually it's a pretty tough process, and sometimes you doubt that you're on the wrong way or on the right way, and I mean, like anything in life, I think sometimes it's a little bit tougher, But you get some Chinese on the pod too.
That's okay. Adds a little flavor to it.
So I think you go through it as best as you can. I mean, you kind of just trying to keep moving on and stay as positive as you can, and you hope that things will change, and once they do, you're actually you're pretty grateful in the way that things actually happen like they did. I think the toughest part for me was probably being traded from New Jersey to Atlanta.
Okay.
I just signed a new contract and felt pretty at home. And obviously the first place you go to in the NHL is going to be a special one for that reason. So that trade, I think, was something that I didn't expect at all, and completely kind of turned everything around.
I heard a bit of a story about that.
Which one? How I found out?
Yeah, how you found out?
Well, I was at the movies and had my phone off. Like back in the days, you don't have you didn't have the phone, the flight mode as you do now. So came out from the movie theater, and we were at Times Square, and you see the news on the ticker going across that been traded for Ilya Kovalchuk, me and Nick Burforce, and it was quite a surreal experience, but it makes up for a good story,
Yeah. So how did that? I mean, not to pry, but how did that feel when you saw that? Were
I think the first time you're getting traded, I think it's very strange. You have a feeling of not that you get complacent, but you get comfortable in a way, and you believe. Obviously, it depends on kind of your situation. But for me, I signed a new contract, and this was the first half of that year. So. I mean, you make up an idea in your mind of what things are going to be like, and then it completely changes. And
quite quickly with something like that.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many businesses. I mean, you could get fired, I guess, but there's not too many businesses where you all of a sudden just from one day to another just take everything you have and you just move it to another place with brand new people, and everything is brand new.
So you had no idea this was even coming?
No, I have no idea.
Wow.
And I mean that's the business, but when you haven't experienced it, it's a little bit different. It's tough to explain, kind of in a way. So, like I said, obviously there's a lot of situations that can be worse. You know, in a regular scenario, it could be you lose your job in your house and everything, of course. But I think just the specifics of you know, feeling that you're pretty much secure. To in 1 or 2 days be in a completely new city, a new place to live, and obviously a new boss and new members of your team or whatever it is. So that's is something quite unique for, I think, for pro sports in a way where that doesn't happen too often in a regular life. Usually there's a transition period of a couple of months, and you can.
Do they have that in like the Swedish Elite League?
Not really. I don't know. I know they can lend players to different spots, and I mean, like I said, it's part of the game. So there's no surprises like that. But I think once it happens to you in a different way, especially the first time when you're a little bit younger, then it hits you in a special way. And but it's the same thing there. Like once you go through it and you realize that it's fine and you can move on and you know, obviously compete and play in a new place pretty quickly. You kind of get used to that too in a way.
Yeah. So what was it like playing in Atlanta?
It was different from New Jersey. We had a lot more structure with a lot of things in New Jersey compared to what we had in Atlanta. So
it's like Atlanta just can't hold a team. I mean, they had the Atlanta Flames, and then they went to Calgary, and then they had the Thrashers, and they went and became the second Winnipeg Jets.
I was thinking speculate for a lot of reasons for that or not, but sometimes that's how it goes. But I think the team now obviously is in a good spot in Winnipeg, and that move
they do love their hockey up there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I get good fans. So I think they're in a good spot. Yeah.
And when you moved with the Thrashers to Winnipeg, right?
Yes.
Did they know as a team? Did you know that was coming, or
I know there was some talks about it at the beginning or end of the year, but nothing really that we thought was finalized or not. And then I don't know if it was done somewhere in June, I think. I can't really remember. It's a long time ago, it feels.
I'll tell you, a long time ago for me is when I stopped playing hockey. 1989.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No. So part of that move, and I thought I was excited. I thought it was a really cool experience. Of course, coming back, kind of a new old franchise coming back, and of course, be in a city that loves hockey. So I had a good time. I wasn't there too long. 5 months or 4 months or whatever it was, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm happy that I was a part of that whole experience. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, not to go back to your childhood time. Did you play any other sports besides hockey, or was it just always hockey for you?
No. Yeah, it was pretty much always hockey. I'm one of the few, like I said, usually when we grew up, maybe it's changed now, but you played soccer in the summertime and then hockey in the wintertime, and you would pick kind of from one or the other at some point. Usually you'd pick the one that you're better at, obviously. Right. So but I never really did, played some basketball with my friends and some I don't know, some indoor floor hockey maybe, but never anything that really catched my interest in the way that hockey did, and it was very zoomed in and focused on that, and I don't know, it's just the way it was. Yeah.
Interesting. Like me, myself, growing up, I played 1 year of soccer. I hated it. I played a few years of baseball, very, very boring. Again, I wasn't very fond of it. Played American football for a few years. Martial arts was pretty big in my life, just from learning from friends. I didn't study martial arts like in a dojo or a school until I was older, but I was always learning from friends, but hockey was always very, very big for me. So, what made you decide to go to North America and play for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League?
Yes. I guess, I don't know where the nomad... the nomads ideas come from, but the same thing there. My brother went to play juniors in Ontario when he actually left even earlier than I did. He played I think he played junior B too as well.
Okay.
So I think I got the idea obviously from him, and then it was a little bit of always kind of liked the smaller rinks and always watched NHL hockey. I was never winning the world championship was not something that really I had in my mind as number one. Like NHL and Stanley Cup was always number one in my head. And I think just the notion or the idea of going playing juniors and living kind of the lifestyle in a way, playing 72 games and, you know, lots of travel and really being focused on just playing hockey in a different way that you would do if you play in Sweden or play juniors in Sweden, which is, I think obviously a little bit more professional now, but yeah, it's just completely, it's a little bit different of a setup and a structure. And then, of course, you never know if you get the opportunity to go to North America at any point. Mm-hmm. So I think a combination of that, I wanted to see what it was, and yeah, I did. And
you did end up going back to Sweden and play, right? After that?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm gonna be terrible with the pronunciation of this. Djurgården?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So Djurgården was actually a team after that, but yeah. I played 1 year in Quebec. Had the hope of trying to get drafted, which I did by Washington pretty late, but at least I knew I was in the vicinity of the NHL, which is good. It's one of those things that are kind of like, at least you're kind of going the right way, so it's it's a good thing. Never got signed, even though I wanted to, and went back to Sweden and played in Hammarby actually in the second division for 2 years.
Okay.
Before going to Djurgården. It's the same, the both Stockholm teams, so could live at home and play those 4 years. Then moved to Gothenburg to play for a final pro year in Sweden before I left for the NHL.
Okay, so that's when you went to New Jersey?
Yeah. So I had 5 good years of pro hockey in Sweden, which was at different levels, which was I think was pretty good for me. I don't think I went to camp. I think the year after I got drafted there, and I remember the feeling of not even being close enough. I wasn't even, it would never have been possible at that point. So I think those 5 years prepared me well, and obviously I had the opportunity to get a little bit bigger and stronger, which was the name of the game at that time. It's changed a lot since then, but especially for smaller guys, I tended to have a little bit more physique back then to kind of get looked at. So those 5 years I think was key to for me to be prepared. And when I was 24, I was a little bit older. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the things in doing some research about you, one of the things that I noticed if I'm not mistaken, while you were at Djurgården, you were a bit of an aggressive hockey player and kind of known as an enforcer.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, back then, I think fighting in Swedish hockey wasn't something that was very very normal. Usually you would fight with your gloves on, and it was pretty primitive in that way. And
so it's not like fighting in the NHL.
Well, now it's a little bit different. I mean, I'm not going to say I opened the door to hell, but there's, of course, some more North American players now. They've changed the rules a little bit, so you see more of those guys. But I think just in general what happened, I played juniors and had a more of an aggressive style, of course, than I have now, or even had in the beginning of the NHL. Didn't really have that many fights, maybe 4 or 5, I don't know, something like that. But I feel I'm good enough to protect myself. And some situations ended up. There was a couple of things that happened. There was one of our guys got elbowed in the head, for example, something that would be suspension for a long time now. He ended up being out for probably 3 months, and there were some.
And you were a good teammate and stood up for him.
Yeah, kind of in a way. That's kind of what happened, and after that, it was a lot of talk about this fighting or not, and what's acceptable, and there was a lot of commotion going on for a little bit, which was I didn't really understand because I thought it was just part of the game. But in Sweden at that point it was very different. So I think it's evolved a lot now, and it's pretty common, and nobody really cares about it that much. But I think I was a little bit more of a vicious player, absolutely.
Don't take any offense to this, but growing up in the 80s, I remember what enforcers looked like back then. They were like big goons. And I mean, I sit here now, and we're the same height, but I'm a bit bigger than you are, weight-wise. You've got bigger arms than I do, that's obvious. But, I mean, you just don't, in my mind, I look at you and I don't see an enforcer.
No, I'm not an enforcer. I never looked at myself like that, and I don't think really anybody else did either. It's something that's I don't really know.
Probably because it was like you stuck up for your teammates quite a lot. I mean, I kind of had that my last year of playing hockey because I'm also a defenseman, and you didn't touch my goaltender. Yeah. If you touched my goaltender, I was coming after you. Yeah. That's just how I was. Yeah. So
that's the old school way of the game. It's like I said, it's changed a lot. So there's a physical part to it, absolutely, and a vicious part, and I think that with age kind of slowed down a little bit.
Okay, it's interesting. I'm just I never pictured you as one, but
no, me neither. So that's good. We're on the same page.
So you won the silver medal at the Olympics for Sweden.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was a fun tournament. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, you want to win. We had some issues before the final game, losing Nicholas Backstrom to it was some type of substance abuse issue where he took some what do you call those allergy
antihistamines?
Allergy pills. It was something like that, and so anyways he couldn't play the game, which is not that good when you play Canada and you lose. We already lost Henrik Sedin, I think, before the tournament.
Okay.
And losing him before that game, we lost Zetterberg during the tournament to a herniated back. So we pretty much had Marcus Kruger playing centerman, and there's no bash against him at all. But doing that by yourself, and you have, Taves Crosby and Getzlaff and I don't know, whoever was on Tavares or whoever on the other side, then it gets pretty tough. I mean, I don't know if we would have won anyways. They're a very good team, but at least it would have been maybe a little bit more even played game. also it's always fun to be there in a way, but of course you want to win. I mean, I'm happy for a silver. That's quite an opportunity to have, but in my mind, I feel like I always lost that game. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting now. Now, this is during the time when the professionals were allowed to play in the Olympics, right?
Yes, yeah.
So for me growing up, it was like there was no, at least in America, there were no professionals allowed to play in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s when they started allowing it, I was like, what is this? This isn't it supposed to be amateurs?
Yeah.
I still kind of feel like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I love to see...
Well, you're going to see it now.
Yeah.
We're going back to no pros again.
Supposedly. There's been talk that some of them are going to go anyway.
Yeah, but maybe. It depends. Like, there's going to be some reaction from the league if that happens. So the question is, what? And I mean, maybe they go after owners or something instead for letting people go. So who knows? We'll see. But for me, I mean, as a player, I think we should be there. I think it's a great way to grow the game. I mean, we talked about it yesterday, off the record, but we have games now played in Sweden and China and everywhere, and we're trying to grow the game.
That is a great. I agree. That's a great.
There's no other thing than the Winter Olympics that would get a lot of different nations involved that would never watch a hockey game otherwise. So from that standpoint, I think we should go there and play. And then obviously as a player, it's a great tournament to go to. And I mean, I understand at some point there's a risk for owners and people get hurt and whatnot, but somehow I think the price for that and they have to pay for it is going to be worth it for a long run for hockey. I think it'd be worth it. But
I guess I could kind of see that. I mean, you have to remember growing up, I always heard the stories of how whenever the Olympics came to the States, we had all the amateur boys. We always brought gold home. Then they put the pros in there. And
so it's a purely selfish thing.
I think so. I guess
you just want America to win. Okay.
No. I love the fact that it's making it more accessible to other countries. I mean, obviously, my love of hockey has really grown a lot again, especially being around these guys with the SHL and stuff. Yeah. And then meeting you, I'm going to be following you from now on as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it either way, I guess. But I mean, for me, as now, my standpoint is, I think it'd be good for the game, and it'd be fun for those players that get picked to go. I think it's an experience that you might just get one or two. Some guys are lucky, go a couple of times, 3-4 times. But if you're lucky, you go once or twice if you're a good hockey player. And obviously, depending on what countries you play for, it's tougher for some than others. But it's a good experience. So,
It's interesting. Let's see. Who is the hardest? You're a defenseman. Who's the hardest hitter you've ever tried to lay a body check on, or that has hit you in the NHL or outside the NHL, where you tried to hit them or they've hit you, and it was just like you went, whoa.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I tried to hit Buffy one time, Dustin Bufflin, and it doesn't really work out that much.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He would probably, if not, maybe him and Chara, I would say, with two guys that would be really big. But I think Buffy's probably the strongest guy in the NHL.
Interesting. And who's the nicest guy you've ever played hockey with?
Nicest guy? There's a lot of nice hockey players, which is good. I think that we're fortunate in our sport compared to a lot of other ones, friends in different sports. And I think hockey players are usually very down to earth and just in general pretty good people.
Okay.
And that's what's nice when you come over here, for example. You go to the rink, and then hockey players are kind of the same everywhere wherever you go, which is nice in a way. You feel at home right away. So that's it's always a good thing. And I don't know who. There's so many guys, but I don't know. We can take somebody that's exceptional hockey player too. Take Marian Hossa maybe, who's having some problems now with some skin issues. Keep him from play this year at least. One of those guys that is always nice to see the smile on his face. Exceptional Hall of Fame hockey player. 1,200 games and 1,000 points, and works as hard as he did when he was 20 years old. It's just some of those guys. It's nice, especially I would say if I were a young forward, to be the guy to watch what he's doing every day. And obviously I was fortunate to play with him for a couple of years, just a fantastic individual that's also very humble and had done pretty much anything you can do in hockey from my point of view, and still carries himself in a perfect way, I think.
Excellent. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know, I've heard stories from before. This is, of course, most of my stories come from like hockey players from the 60s and 70s, because that's when my dad was playing, and I only got to meet like amateur guys before they went pro and stuff. So you hear other stories, and but yeah, it's interesting. I love the fact that you definitely kind of see it when they're being interviewed. A lot of the players seem much more humble than they might have been in the 70s. I don't know, not all of them, some of them seemed a bit, I don't know, it's hard, I don't want to say big of themselves, but, just not as nice guys. I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know, TV or doing interviews, it's a little bit different thing too after.
Yeah, that's true.
You get, depending on the exposure, but I would assume there's a lot more exposure now for different media outlets than it was at any time before. I think there's Facebooks and Instagrams and Twitters and interviews and podcasts. Podcasts is a pretty new thing too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of media outlets. So I think players get exposed in a different way. Anything you do now, you end up on somebody's camera phone. So
absolutely.
It's
a good example is
different.
A good example would be John Jones from the UFC. He just can't seem to do anything right. Now that he got his title. Now a little bit still in hockey, but a little bit off of hockey. Do you have a particular brand of hockey equipment that you just prefer to use? The reason I ask is because, like, when I was growing up, everything was CCM. For me, except for hockey sticks. Hockey sticks was Christian Brothers. They don't make Christian Brother hockey sticks anymore. But now that I'm getting back into hockey, everything kind of seems more, and that could just be where I got my gear, is more Bauer. I don't know. Do you have something that you do?
I worked with Warrior for a while, using sticks and gloves, and I think I started. Tried around a lot of different stuff, I think, until a couple of years in the NHL. So been using them for 7 years or something like that now, I think, which is been very good.
That's Warrior.
Okay. I've had Bauer skates for a long time, and now I think they're having some trouble. I think somebody's trying to buy them up or not, but
this is not the first time they've been bought.
There's some issues there, so to be honest, I think the quality has gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as good. Used to be by far, I would think, the best brand for skates, and now I think some other companies are catching up.
For me, the best was always Tax.
I had those before.
When I was in high school, I had Ultra Tax.
Yeah.
That was like the first skate with the gel padded ankle.
Yeah.
But now
I think it goes in waves. I think the CCM had a little bit of a peak at that point too, and then Bauer's been for 10 years or so, and I think maybe CCM is coming back now and doing a lot of good skates too. So hopefully Bauer can do something about it and challenge the market a little bit more. But that's pretty much what I have gear-wise. I wear some different pads, but Warrior's my go-to brand for sticks and gloves. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And one last question for you. What is your all-time favorite hockey movie?
All-time favorite hockey movie?
Yeah. Now, the reason I ask is I'm a huge fan of Slapshot, obviously.
Yeah.
But also, I also like watching the Mighty Ducks for one particular reason. I have played ice hockey in every one of those indoor rinks.
Oh, okay.
Because they're all in Minnesota.
Yeah. What's the other one? There's one more. That Youngblood is
Youngblood is another one. Yeah. There's Goon.
I think Youngblood's the one.
Yeah. You like Youngblood?
Yeah. I think that's the one. I think that's the one I watched the most too, I would say. I think Slapshot was maybe a little bit before my time.
Okay. Yeah, I am 10 years older than you.
So I think Youngblood is like right. Your Slapshot is probably my Youngblood, I would say.
Well, Youngblood came out when I was in the 80s, so I grew up watching Youngblood, but like huge influence from my father, which Slapshot was his like all-time favorite movie.
Yeah.
So
I think that was a little bit before. But Youngblood I watched, so I would say that probably. Yeah.
What do you think of the movie Goon?
It's good. Are they making a new one too?
They're making a second one. It's supposed to come out later this year.
Yeah. We saw it on. I don't know if I saw it on a bus or flight or something somewhere. But yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah.
All right, now I'd like to thank you for being on my show. Before we go, I always do this thing that I call Always Remember, where I leave my listeners and viewers with something positive, and it could be anything. And I was wondering if you would be willing to do the Always Remember for me tonight.
Absolutely. The Always Remember would be, I think in general in life, as in hockey, if you're a young hockey player or you're aspiring to do anything, I think it's important to try to find your way and really trying to figure out what it is you want to do, and then obviously find ways how to solve that the puzzle of trying to go the right way. I think too many times now we get caught up in what's going on around us in society or whatnot, and norms, what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to feel, and I think it takes away a lot of the happiness from yourself. So sometimes you might have to go away, but nobody's been. Like in my case, maybe you go to Thailand and play hockey. Who knows?
And we're very thankful, especially now that I get to meet you. I've heard so much about you, so it's been great.
But I think that's important. It's something I try to do. Not trying to be unique in a way, but just try to do what you believe is the thing for you to do, and obviously with good intentions. I think a lot of positive thing comes out of that, and sometimes it might be there might be a lot of questions and people are wondering what you're doing and what the hell you're thinking, but in the long run I think they will accept and they will actually see the beauty in that too. So find a balance of going your own way, I think, and have a good intent. I think that's what I'm leaving the pod today with.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Please rate my show or leave a comment or make suggestions of what you would like me to talk about. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Dom Dumas, on Twitter at Dom Dumas, or on Instagram, Dom_Dumas. Thanks a lot.